Hey,
When we were young.
yes.
Well, you still are. You always will be relative to me. So,
Well, it's always relative, isn't it?
yeah.
Yeah. How are you doing? I'm assuming you're not Barbied out. You're just wearing pink because you wear pink.
No, this was, yeah, this has nothing to do with, I don't think this is a Barbie pink, actually.
They're
Um,
all Barbie pinks, but no, you're right. It's not. I mean, yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not.
I have, we were ahead of our time in our discussion last week, obviously, because subsequently, it seems to me that there's been little in the news other than Barbenheimer or
Hmm.
Bob. I even saw a clip of the guy that plays Oppenheimer, who looks, he's got these really strange starry eyes.
Killian Murphy. Yes. Yeah,
Is
yeah,
he well known?
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
I might see it just to see if he sustains that throughout.
Okay, he's very good. Okay, I've seen them both. I have seen them both. I saw them in one day. I saw them in
He
one sitting.
did.
I
Oh,
did.
okay.
Yes. So,
Okay.
ask me anything, but also spoilers ahead.
No, I
He's
don't want any spoilers, but what I was going to say is I saw him saying, "Of course I'm going to see Barbie."
Oh, good. Oh, okay. Because there are pictures of Margot Robbie and Greta Gerwig, the director of Barbie, together holding their tickets in front of the Oppenheimer poster. And I mean, credit where credit is due. Tom Cruise started this. Him and the director of Mission Impossible standing in front of the Indiana Jones poster, but really to promote theaters,
Yeah,
which
that's
I
good.
absolutely, yeah, no, I absolutely support. The interesting thing about that to me is Tom Cruise has never made a television or streaming appearance ever. He has only ever look at his entire IMDb profile. He's only ever made movies. He never guested on Friends. I mean he's not done a react.
He did jump and up and down on a
Oh,
couch. So
oh yes, no, I'm sorry. He's done promotional appearances for his movies, but he's never acted in anything
I
on
see.
television or
He's never done
streaming.
any work. He's never been in the theater. He's never
Right.
done it.
No,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, I mean, even Reese Witherspoon. I mean, everyone else is sort of a cross genre. They're movie stars, but but he is only a movie star. So when he's invested in the theaters and keeping theaters alive, that's really his only bread and butter. If it becomes Netflix only, well, I mean, he would then have to do it. But his
Yeah.
yeah.
I wonder, does he do like Rolex ads in Japan? I
Oh,
mean,
yeah, I'm sure he does. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure he does. Yeah, 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 yeah.
well, they all do that.
Right. No, and that's fine. But no, again, no spoilers, but I will say Oppenheimer is fine. Um, well, no, the San Francisco Gate has a compare, and again, I don't think it should be a comparison. I think you should support all the arts, but they compare and contrast Barbie versus Oppenheimer and who comes out the winner. I agree with everything, but the most glaring omission of Oppenheimer is not one Japanese face or individual in the entire film.
Well,
Um,
you see, yeah, that my initial reaction about seeing any movie that was made by Americans in America about the atom bomb is to what degree are they going to explore the fact from the point of view of the people who they dropped it on?
Not at all. No, this is absolutely this is a movie made by a white man for people who live in that world. So much so that it's not even, screw you, anyone else who has a different perspective. It's what do you mean? I don't even. I'm so myopic. I don't even picture them. It doesn't. It does not excuse dropping the bomb, but it makes a lot of arguments about why it was invented and versus the Nazis and this was necessary and Oppenheimer is Jewish. I mean, it is so steeped in yeah, I mean,
Well,
politically,
The Nazis had already given up. They were defeated.
well, so had the Japanese, and that's what I mean.
The
That's
Japanese were actually, I think, defeated
I
too.
mean, well, they hadn't given up, and that was made.
They hadn't given up. Yeah.
But they were defeated. I mean, yeah, I mean, it's no, it's so steeped it. But Killian Murphy deserves the Oscar for the acting. He's amazing. The decision to shoot in IMAX is so. I found it distracting. For instance, speaking of his intense stare, you can tell he wears contacts. It's shot in such intense level of clarity, you can see that he's wearing contacts, but the
Oh,
character doesn't wear contacts. So that's, you
well,
know,
they
that.
didn't have contacts. Yeah.
So that's a little interesting, but it's well shot. It's I mean, it's fine, and it's gonna win all the awards. I think Barbie's better. I enjoyed Barbie. I think you had mentioned right at the end, you like the Lego movie. This is absolutely for fans of the Lego movie. So Will
Okay.
Ferrell plays the president of Mattel. It's absolutely meta. It's absolutely self-aware. It's about Barbie, but it's not. It's about, yes, it takes on feminism, but it also takes on toxic masculinity. Like Ken, Ryan Gosling is actually amazing as Ken. He's hilarious, and so is Simu Lau as another Ken, because they're all kind of all Kens and all Barbies in Barbie Land, and no, I enjoyed Barbie a lot.
Well,
Um,
okay. So my only question is,
mhm.
will I be able to follow it?
I would say much better than Oppenheimer. I mean, yeah,
Oh, okay.
um,
Okay. Well,
it's
I know the many of the historical facts of Oppenheimer, but I'm just worried because there are some movies like The Matrix or movies where you have more, like when you have three Spider-Man, that I can't.
No, I was just saying I used to love that. I used to love multiverse. That used to be almost my favorite thing. I used to love sci-fi. I took speculative fiction classes in college to write that kind of thing. But now it's so overdone, and now every movie, like every superhero movie, has to have 10 versions, and it's like I'm actually exhausted by that. So I agree. Like, let's keep it a little bit more
I
linear. No,
think Yeah, I
Barbie
think
has.
they should have kept it. There was one early comic book where there was a double Superman or something, and that was enough, I
Sure.
think.
No, yeah, yeah, yeah. No, sure. Okay, here's the plot of Barbie very simply. Barbies live in a Barbie world that's euphoric, where women run everything. There's a female president, a female Supreme Court, and everything. They assume the real world is like that as well. And they assume, for whatever reason, that Barbie actually created that Barbie was the result of equity and diversity and feminism
Okay.
in the real world. For whatever reason, a Barbie has to enter the real world and quickly discovers it's not so fantastic, and then so I mean
Yeah,
that's it. That's the plot. I mean, and then
good. All right. I mean, I'm in.
there's
I'm
yeah,
in.
no, there's also a mother-daughter, and the daughter's growing up, and the mother has to let go, and that's America Ferrera. She's very good. No, it's I enjoyed the Barbie movie. I enjoyed them both. They're both good films, but they both have. And again, Barbie also ends up. It's a 2 hour ad. It's a 2 hour ad for a doll. So at the end of the day, I mean, even though it does poke fun at aspects of its history, it does. So, for instance, Midge was the pregnant Barbie that they had to discontinue very quickly because parents didn't like this idea of a unmarried pregnant Barbie. So Midge is in the movie, but they show her, but the camera's literally panning past, and she's trying to get, and they're like, so
Yeah.
it helps to know some of the history of Barbie. But again, much like Oppenheimer, I don't think you have to know anything moving in. It's all,
But
I mean, it's all.
it's a 2 hour ad for something that doesn't need to be advertised anymore. So like Lego, like I'm not offended that Lego is a brand
Right. No. Right. Yes. Yeah. 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 So
because
no. Um,
I mean they could make a Brillo box movie. I don't know. I'd probably
Yes. Well, like I said, I mean,
definitely see
Mattel
that.
now has 17 other movies. They have Thomas the Tank Engine, and I don't even know what's coming next. But yeah, they're gonna.
Okay. Well, I'm did you see them on the same day
I
or
did. Yeah, I watched them back to back, and yeah, I mean, it's a lot to sit through.
no, I don't think I won't be able to do that, but in the next, I'll see it within the next, while they're out. It's
Yeah.
going to be,
Yeah. 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 Is
yeah.
there what else? What's going on in your world?
Um, oh, uh, I'm going to have a tussle with my publisher because I don't get it. I mean, this is, I mean, they're big, they're part
Yes.
of the biggest in the world. They haven't sent me a contract yet, and yet they want to put a sample pages and images in their sales catalog. I found that out
Oh,
on,
yeah. 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 No.
and the point is, if they want to put it in the sales catalog, presumably they have a publication date, which they haven't shared with me.
Right.
I'm
No.
not going to begin to think about the design until I've signed a contract.
Hmm.
Don't have I don't have image files because I don't
Hmm.
have permissions for any of the images, because that's a big job which I will start to do once I've got a signed contract. So
Hmm.
they've dragged their feet months and months and months. It's not that I've been negotiating a contract. I've said yes, whatever they wanted, or we had a little back and forth a long time ago. They just never produced it. I still haven't seen it, and now they want me to engage with the designer. I'm happy to engage with him, but frankly, I mean, I am, I'm a business person, so I don't give people paintings until they
That's
paid for them.
work. No, yeah, 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 yeah.
I think a contract is, if it was a guy, if it was the guy on the corner with a handheld publishing company, I wouldn't care. But this is,
Yeah, yeah,
that,
yeah.
so anyway, that's kind of dropped in my lap. So I don't know what I'm going to do about that. But coincidentally with that, and
But wait,
very
when do they want an answer about the
well,
sample piece?
I don't know. They just called my agent
Oh,
and
okay. Yeah, yeah.
they said, tell Michael we'd like to have we want this material as soon as possible for the sales catalog.
Hmm.
Well, I mean, I don't know if they do one a year or two a year, or
Hmm.
so the other thing is, um that there was in the 60s, that there's a big collecting family called the Demenils, and there was a daughter who was probably 30ish in the 60s. She's now well into her 80s, and she was a photographer. Although she didn't earn her living, she was a professional level photographer. She later married an anthropologist, and they worked together. She took tons and tons and tons of photographs very quietly and discreetly at gallery openings throughout the 60s and other places. She had a Rolleiflex which just hangs
Yeah,
down.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
you never you'd say you could even be talking to her and she'd be
Sure.
taking
Yeah,
photograph.
yeah, yeah.
So I I was friendly with her at the time. I have a print that she did, which is actually a photograph of Andy Warhol talking to Marisol at an opening that was 1963. Anyway, everybody's wondered, like, well, what's happened to all of what,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
didn't. So I got an email literally the day before yesterday from a guy who's running a foundation that I guess it's her foundation, and he is cataloging all of these photographs, and he sent me some sample contact sheets, and he needs me to help him identify people
Sure.
because
Yes,
uh,
yeah, that's
you
you.
know
That's
I
yeah, yeah.
and I'm going to go see him, maybe if see her too, to say hello on Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
There might be images that I could use in my book. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's kind of the what I'm getting at,
Mm-hmm.
is this is very
Mm-hmm.
it's serendipitous.
Yes, yeah, yeah, yeah.
That, um, they have photographs of Bridget Riley's opening in 1966 at the Richard Feigen Gallery, and Barnett
Sure.
Newman was there, and a bunch of other artists. And there's a photo of me there with Gerald Lang's wife. Anyway, that's kind of exciting, only because it kind of fits with where I am, with this book.
Yeah.
So that's that. I wanted to ask you about some. I just saw this just today
Mm-hmm.
because I saw an interview on CNN. You know this actor Hill Harper, who's he's running for the Senate in Michigan.
No.
He was in CSI New York. You
Okay.
will know
Okay, sure. No, okay. Yeah,
when
yeah.
you see his face. You will say, "Oh, that guy."
Sure. Yeah. Sure, sure, sure.
He's been characters in two or three successful
Mm-hmm.
TV
Mm-hmm.
shows, but he's not William Shatner, right?
Sure.
He's black. He's probably in his 50s, and he's come out to because the Michigan Democrat is retiring, a woman, and I
Sure.
think it's going to be a no, I just wondered because they were giving him kind of a hard time on CNN. Um, and he seems to be positioning himself left of middle, if you know what I
Mm,
mean,
mm.
which is interesting.
And a hard time for that, or
No,
just
because because he released a campaign ad which ostensibly is him explaining to his son why they're living in Michigan, or why Michigan. I know, like, what are the good things about Michigan and what he wants to do. I mean, it's a little corny idea, but
sure.
they some people said, well, yeah, but for part of the time, your son was at school in Washington. I mean, it was kind of like trying to trip him up on stuff, the kind of stuff I think you can probably trip everybody up
Yeah,
on.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I
I
didn't think
right.
that was really necessary, but I think CNN is trying now to be
More they want Fox viewers. They want Fox viewers.
Fox viewers. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, it's very clear. I mean, it's like those memos have been leaked. It's yes, their hard pivot. Once they, I mean, well, the CEO who developed the whole Trump town hall, which was widely criticized, left.
Oh
But that
yeah.
doesn't change that really they're floundering. They don't have viewers, and they see Fox viewers as a way, or pivoting more towards that style, and that means being more, again, I mean, technically, legally, it's journalism. Technically, legally, it's free speech, but we're just asking questions. In the guise of we're just asking questions, you can attack the same marginalized communities over and over and over. And this is what supremacy has done for centuries. And now the
Yeah.
media is doing it not even because it's their political values, just for clicks and views. Um, because it gets clicks and views. Because I mean, I get
Well,
exhausted.
it's the inevitable. It's the false. It's a false. I don't know the term for it. False equivalency.
Yes. Oh no.
It,
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
justifying, saying, well, I'm on the right side, but hey, let's listen to what the other guys say because they have a point of view too, and as soon as you open that, if the point of view is lies, if that point of view is falsehoods,
Right.
then you're simply giving them a platform.
Well, so yeah, okay. So Andrew Tate, who is the guy who's in under house arrest in Romania for human trafficking, literally, gets interviewed by Joe Rogan, which is on Spotify, like one of the most mainstream platforms in America. I'm arguing with people why this shouldn't be, and they're saying, well, sunlight is the best disinfectant. And I'm like, well, Joe Rogan's not sunlight. Joe Rogan's a softball. He's giving him softball interview questions. He's just platforming him. It's not like Joe Rogan gets him on and has his victims on at the same time and lets them confront him. It's not like Joe Rogan even interviews his victim. It's not like Joe Rogan is both sides. Joe Rogan absolutely just platforms people like Andrew Tate under the guise of, well, everyone deserves to have their story. Why? I don't, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What's the click? Do you hear a clicking sound?
Oh, it's on my end. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Doesn't matter.
I,
It's all fine.
okay. Yeah, I do, and I know. I am getting a whole new computer. It's time. It's definitely reached its last legs. The fact that I'm able to tune it, it's still
Well, you're
working.
very clear, actually.
Oh,
The is very
okay,
clear.
but yeah, no, I know what the clicking sound is. I'm trying to figure out how to fix it, but in the meantime, yeah, let's just ignore it. Um,
So the other thing that's been in the news, or was in the news today, is um, apparently Yoko Ono, who is now 90,
hmm.
is moved to their farm in the Catskills.
Well, I knew that. Yes,
And the fact that she's no longer at the Dakota
yes,
seems to have hit a nerve with nostalgic New Yorkers.
yes.
In other words, people who enjoyed glimpsing her, um,
I,
or
yeah,
just
no, yes.
knowing the legend.
No, no, I know, because I agree. I haven't lived in New York myself in, oh, wow, well, 30 years. I've lived outside of New York, and I've actually lived here longer than anywhere else, including New York. But in my mind, yeah, Yoko Ono at the Dakotas, that is just sort of legendary, and like that's just is. But she's also they had that house in the Hudson Valley for decades as well. John lived there as well, didn't he? I mean, it's
Yeah. They bought it a long time ago.
so.
But it's the fact that you're not going to see her.
At
I mean,
Zabar's or
once
yeah.
saw her actually going on Christmas Day. We went to Strawberry Fields. This is like 10 years
Oh yes,
ago.
you yes.
And she just walked through with some friends, and stopped and just went on. So, uh, but yeah, but then I remember her in her mink coat at your school too, at the morale.
Right. No. Right. Um. Well, yeah.
And I mean, I don't know if this is a real memory or not,
Right.
but I remember that at the back, it was a play, or it was a play, or
Mhm.
yeah, some kind of a play. She was sitting with, I think, her mother and another woman, right? And they were certainly wearing fur coats. I
Yes.
mean, she was not she was not doing that art piece where they cut her clothes off.
Right. No. Right. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And it hadn't begun yet. And John was at the back, and he was talking to Carly Simon,
Hmm.
and she turned around and basically said, "Come here," to him, like, yeah, like, sit down.
Hmm.
And he did. But I don't know if that was before or after he'd been went off with his other young Japanese lady for a while.
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't know.
You've had a fair amount of insight into the dynamics of celebrity couples. The Sarah Jessica Parker and Matthew Broderick.
Well, yeah, that was just by seeing them being yeah, as an onlooker,
Hmm.
and that was serendipitous. I
Hmm.
didn't.
Yeah. No. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I didn't have I wasn't paparazzi or anything.
Yeah.
They
No.
just
Yeah.
they decided to perform that in front of me.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. A spontaneous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Tony Bennett.
Okay. So two two really interesting anecdotes that came out of this in the last 48 hours for me.
Hmm.
Apparently he was doing an open air concert with Buddy Rich in California, and he had some song about a shooting star. I don't know what the
Hmm.
song is,
Hmm.
but he was singing that song, and guess what? There was a shooting star, and they were in the open air, right?
Hmm.
And he said the next morning he got a call from Ray Charles, who he'd never met, never spoken to. Okay,
Right.
and Ray Charles said, "How did you do that, man?" and hung up.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And the other one, which I think is kind of funny, he and Louis Armstrong were both doing a royal something in London, a Royal Command performance. Tony Bennett apparently, he's an artist. Everybody's an artist, right? But he did a portrait of Louis Armstrong, gave it to, Louis Armstrong, who Tony Bennett then said he put it in his house in Queens, right? And when people asked him who did it, he said, "Oh, a kid from the neighborhood." It couldn't be true because Tony Bennett was from
He's a kid from the neighborhood. No, of course. No.
Victoria.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Although I think, strictly speaking, Louis Armstrong, his wife was from the neighborhood, which
Yes.
is they lived there. He was from New Orleans.
But isn't Louis Armstrong's house in Queens like it's a museum
It's
now?
where he lived,
Yeah, but that wasn't where. Yeah, no, it wasn't his like where he grew up.
and because his wife bought that house
Mm-hmm.
while he was on tour.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I know this
She
story.
wanted to be near her relatives. She
Yeah.
wanted to be.
Yes. Yeah. 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 No. Okay. Well, going back to CNN, again, trying to be relevant. The headline was crooner Tony Bennett dies. And that's fine. He was a crooner, that's the term. But I'm like, does anyone younger than me know the term crooner? Like, if you're trying, you have to explain what that means even. Like, yeah, it's a style of music that he literally is probably the last of.
I think I think that's belittling, frankly.
Mm, yes.
Someone who sang with Louis Armstrong and Katie Lang and
Yes, no,
Lady
and
Gaga.
Lady Gaga, and yeah. And I mean,
Yeah, no, I mean, and who really defined an era.
yes,
Frank Sinatra said he was the best singer because he let you in. He said he's the
huh,
best singer because he
yes,
let you in, which is
yes.
understandable, right? So yeah, crooner is that CNN said that.
Yeah, and well, I mean, it's fine. I get it. That's the term, or that's a term. But
I would think the New York Post would. I mean, that's
the Daily News. Speaking of again competition, the Daily News is trying to now out New York Post, the New York Post. Like they're posting
it.
more and more of those like hate. I don't know, just like they're the same kind of like. I mean, they're not owned by the Murdochs, but it seems they're looking at the New York Post getting national attention and saying, "How can I get clicks and
So they
views?"
have to have lots of articles about the royal family and
Right.
I mean, I don't understand it.
Yeah.
If I was a New York City born and bred New York Post reader, I'd say, why am I getting all this information about
Yeah.
across the pond? I mean, who cares? But I don't know.
What else? Who else?
You tell me, what are you up to?
I don't know. I mean, I'm still thinking about the SAG-AFTRA strike and work and strikes and labor and unions. Disney heiress Abigail Disney got arrested in East Hampton for she was protesting private jets and their take on
Abigail Disney?
yeah, yeah. I mean, she's like a what?
In East Hampton
In East
here?
Hampton. I mean, well, which begs the question: how did she get to East Hampton? But no, I mean,
Yeah. I mean, the airport is right next to us, but we are we're northeast of the airport, so very few planes go over us.
oh, interesting. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
but if we were just like
Oh, it would actually,
away,
yeah.
we'd be under. They'd be flying over us all the time. Yeah, it's a big controversy because obviously, because the airport lease was up, and
Oh,
the town could
yep.
town owns the airport. I mean,
Right,
they own the land,
right,
and they don't have to continue. They don't have to continue it as an airport.
right.
But there are two very powerful factions:
Yes,
the people that don't want the noise,
right.
and people with the private jets and the helicopters. You know,
And well, I mean, what the worst case scenario for them is they would move it slightly farther out of town, right? I mean, it's there's
no, well, they'd move it to another town. I mean, they'd move to another airport.
yeah,
Or
yeah.
someone would build one that was maybe 50. I don't know.
Yeah.
Is Abigail Disney a granddaughter
I
or?
think, yeah, yeah. I no, I don't know who she is at all. I mean, except that she is a Disney and she's apparently political, and that's interesting. I mean, obviously, I love Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift is playing here tonight at the Eras Tour. That's probably the biggest thing happening in Seattle today. But she herself, like, took I think 238 private jet trips last year. Um, the carbon footprint impact of just that. She's not as bad as some people. Like Kylie Jenner will literally take a trip from, San Jose to LA, like literally take like 15-minute private jet trips and things. But I mean, celebrities, private jets. Oh, and then this is my favorite. All of them going to environmental climate summits. The billionaires going to climate summits on their private jets.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
So
There is there is a. I mean, it will never be revealed. The mechanics of it never. There is a ride share situation that goes on.
oh, well, no. Okay. Well, Taylor Swift actually got roasted for that because she said in response to the 238 trips. Well, those weren't all me. Sometimes I let other people ride, and they were like, "Oh, that's so kind of you to let the poorer celebrities ride on your private jet." Like, but it's still. Yes. No, there is a ride share situation. I get that.
Yeah, that's their mitigating fact. That's yeah, that makes it all okay, right?
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, it's not. I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
well, I don't know. They take almost as wealthy passengers, but they don't take somebody who's left their own jet at home,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it doesn't make the impact of arrival. It's not,
Okay, this is an interesting one. King County here in where I live
yes.
just outlawed by a 5-4 vote, the county council, um, having cashless businesses. Like you have to be able to
Really,
accept cash, which because that's to me that makes sense because it's an equity issue. I mean, there people who
I
don't.
understand that. Yeah.
But I have noticed more and more, and sometimes it's not even again having just gone to the movies. Sometimes it's not even you can only pay with a card, but you need a phone or a device just to get into a venue. I mean, there's this sort of digital. Yeah,
Elitism.
say it again.
Elitism.
Elitism and yeah, and almost a part. Yeah, no. So that's just interesting to me. I'm thinking more and more about that. Um,
I mean, if you're on the street,
mhm.
I'm thinking that like I've been walking in Central Park because I have to do my physical therapy every day and I
Right.
do a lot of walking. And I've noticed the musicians, the jazz players,
Mm-hmm.
da, 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 and I always give them, a few bucks. And so there are people whose existence depends on cash money. I mean, they don't. That's I mean,
Right.
so if
Um,
you're going to prevent them, that guy or that woman, from taking that cash and crossing the street and going onto Madison Avenue and buying a cup of coffee.
okay. That being said, though, that's interesting because as someone who worked for tips for years, that level of cash actually there's always been a certain. So I always had to have a bank account, for instance, because if I walked in to pay anything over $20 with ones,
Yeah.
they're going to present me with they don't want it and sometimes they'll just say no, like you can't pay your rent with ones, you can't pay your you've that's always been true, that's been true for decades, like you have to have a bank.
That's are they legally allowed to
Oh.
do?
Okay, well that's interesting because I don't did you hear about this? This was an employer who they had an employee who quit legally because they were allowed to quit, gave their severance, gave their notice, did everything they were supposed to do. The employee had to pay out their whatever and chose to do so with pennies, and specifically pennies that were soaked in oil or like somehow otherwise. um
Yeah.
they like yeah the employee sued and that was ruled illegal. No, that makes sense. um
Because the food carts outside the Metropolitan Museum don't take 20s or 50s.
mm, Okay, well, here's the
So
flip side. Okay, that flips it back to what is the actual argument? Why do some businesses go cashless? And it's because of robberies and theft. If you don't have cash on hand, you're much less, and especially in New York, because this has come up. They're now, what happened, like with someone got locked into a bodega and shot because the businesses were locking people inside, and so now they had to make that illegal. I don't know. I get it. Crime is a problem. Where I live in my neighborhood, you can't buy Tide detergent on the shelf anymore. It's a cardboard picture of Tide, and you take that to the register, and that's what you get in exchange because Tide is so shoplifted. Um, no, I get why businesses go cashless. I get why they don't want large bills. But no, it's funny. Yes, no, you're right. And then other places won't take small bills. In some cases, it's because they don't have the capacity. Like they don't have. Where are they going to take? I mean, if I showed up with 500 ones, where are they going to put that? Like it's so I get it also. But yeah, so you as someone who collected, who made my money on singles and change, yeah, you always had to convert that somehow.
Yeah.
But no, the people who live unsheltered, people who, oh, and then I guess the other sort of device thing, New York still has, they're fewer and fewer, but I was just there, and they have, in Times Square in particular, they have those kiosks where oftentimes you see someone has propped up a chair and they have their
Oh
device.
yeah, no, there are people who one might assume were homeless who were charging devices or making some kind of calls using those. I think they're very necessary.
I do
Very
too. No, yeah, I think that they should be everywhere, um, as should public toilets, but that's, I mean, Um, here in King County, again, they just ruled that the sweeps we've been doing with the unsheltered folks are illegal. Basically, they've been calling anything an obstruction. If it's an encampment, you have to give 20, I'm sorry, not 24, 72 hours notice. You have to warn people.
clear it. To clear it, you mean?
You have to store, say it again.
To clear it. In
Yeah,
other
to
words,
clear it, yes. You have to give them notice. You have to store their property for a period of time, etc. But if you call it an obstruction, then you can just clear it, throw it all away, and just call it a day. And some people have, like, over and over have, they've gone for a doctor's appointment and then come back, or they've gone to work and then come back and found their property destroyed over and over again. And so that was just recently ruled unconstitutional. I mean, I talk about it over and over. Like, I mean, people talk about Seattle like it's this liberal whatnot, but I mean, our city attorney is very, like, tough on crime. Our mayor is very sort of top down. Our police department is under a federal consent decree for its racism. I mean, I mean,
yeah,
this is the liberal utopia that I don't know.
yeah, so called. Right. Well,
So called.
so the
Uh,
other thing maybe we go on to next week that and it's no surprise, but there's a study now has realized that all of the developers in New York who are allowed to increase the size of their buildings because they promise public,
oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
they've now discovered that no, first of all, nobody has been policing that. Really,
Right, right.
nobody's been policing it. 1 in 5 don't. It's on they put restaurants there, or they actually put barbed wire there so the public cannot go there.
Hmm.
It's a huge scandal, and also the fines they have to pay are nothing compared to the billions of dollars they get for having
In the rebates and what? No,
yeah, I
yeah,
mean they could pay $15,000 a month forever
yeah.
as a fine.
None of that. No, none of that surprised me. And the same exact is true here. That there's no oversight. They don't follow through most of the time, and when they do, so one of the things was it was very specific, at least in our laws, that the affordable housing had to be on site. You couldn't pay for separate housing
Yeah,
across
yeah.
town. It had to be mixed use housing, but they're not
Right.
doing that. I mean, yeah, no, they're, yeah, again, they just do what they want, and they'll pay the fines, and the fines are minimal anyway, and they're happy to do that. I mean, this is why, I mean, Elon Musk is now, the employees are suing for $500 million, but he said at the time when he first said, I will not fire everyone, and then fired 80% of them, sue me. He said, sue me, and he doesn't care. I mean, some people have the lawyers to just do what they want.
Well, it's a Trump attitude. It's a playbook. That's the playbook.
It is a playbook. No, it is a playbook. Are you reading anything? Are you listening to anything? Are you?
Um, I'm reading old English detective stories by Ruth Rendell
Mm,
from the
yes.
19, and it's if you read them through from the 1970s to the 2000s, it's very interesting. It talks a lot about kind of, I mean, houses, what people look like, how they talked, even. I mean, it's not
Yes.
the story, but the description is very
The
the
period. No.
changing mores in Britain. It's kind of interesting. Anyway,
Yes.
so that's kind of junk, kind of
For sure. No, but that's good.
junk
No. Yeah.
reading, but it's okay.
Good.
Yeah, no. Um, oh, it's good. I get a bit fatigued, but that's because I have to do all this walking. But I enjoy it.
Good.
I
Keep it up. And yeah. No. I love you, Dad.
love you. Talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.